The galaxy had been peaceful for 3,000 years. 47 different species lived together, traded with each other, and never fought. War was something from ancient history books, not something real. The Galactic Council made sure everyone followed the rules, and everyone did. On a small moon called Veltrax Prime, the Quilarians lived quiet lives. They were small, gentle beings with soft gray skin and large eyes. Their ancestors had evolved on a world with weak gravity and no dangerous animals. They had never needed to fight, never needed to be afraid. Mining rare crystals from the moon's caves was their only job, and they were happy doing it. Then the Ravagers came. The first attack happened without warning. Ships appeared in the sky, dark and twisted like living nightmares. They didn't send messages. They didn't ask for anything. They just started killing. The Quilarians ran and hid in their caves, but the Ravagers found them. Within 3 days, the first colony went silent. Then another. Then 5 more. Ambassador Thelox stood before the Galactic Council, his small body shaking. He had barely escaped the last attack. His voice was weak as he spoke. "Please, we are dying. 7 colonies are gone. Thousands of my people are dead. We don't know how to stop them. We don't even understand why they are attacking us." The council chamber was silent. Representatives from dozens of species looked at each other with fear in their eyes. None of them had armies. None of them had weapons beyond simple tools for mining asteroids or defending against space debris. They were civilized. They didn't do violence. "We must negotiate," said one council member, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. "Perhaps they want resources. Perhaps we can trade." "They don't answer our messages," Thelox said, his voice breaking. "They just kill." Another council member, a floating jellyfish-like creature, spoke up. "We could send our security forces. They have ships." "Security forces?" Thelox repeated. "They rescue people from accidents. They redirect asteroids. They aren't fighters. The Ravagers would destroy them in minutes." The council fell silent again. For the first time in 3,000 years, they faced a problem they couldn't solve with words or trade. They faced something that wanted to hurt them, and they had no way to fight back. In the back of the chamber, a data analyst named Vexaris worked quietly at his console. He was from the Corthan species, beings who loved information and patterns. While the others argued, he searched the deep archives looking for anything that might help. He expanded his search beyond the member species. He looked at uncontacted civilizations, at worlds too dangerous to visit, at files marked with warning symbols. Then he found something that made his 3 hearts beat faster. A planet called Earth. The file was red with warning markers. The classification made him pause. Extreme death world. Status: quarantined. Recommended action: avoid at all costs. Vexaris read further. The planet had gravity 30% stronger than normal. The surface was covered with violent weather systems that could destroy entire cities. The oceans had storms that could sink massive ships. The temperature swung from freezing cold to burning hot. Predators filled every environment, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains, and somehow a species lived there. Not just survived, but dominated their entire world. The file described them as bipedal omnivores with no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. Just soft skin and weak bodies. Yet they were apex predators. They hunted animals 10 times their size. They lived in every climate, from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. They even killed each other regularly, something the file called war. The file ended with a note in 17 languages. "This species has mastered organized violence. They are dangerous beyond measure. Do not make contact under any circumstances." Vexaris stared at the file for a long time. Then he looked at Ambassador Thelox, who was crying now, begging the council for help that couldn't come. He looked at the other council members, who had no answers. He made a decision that would change everything. "Ambassador Thelox," Vexaris called out, "I may have found someone who can help." The chamber went quiet. Thelox turned to him with desperate hope in his large eyes. "Who? What species? Are they part of the Union?" "No," Vexaris said slowly. "They are quarantined. Their world is classified as an extreme death world, but according to this file, they understand violence. They have something called military forces, designed specifically for fighting." Fear rippled through the chamber. Someone whispered, "Deathworlders." "Are you suggesting," another council member said in horror, "that we contact a violent species?" That we bring warriors into our peaceful civilization? They are already dead, Thalox shouted suddenly, surprising everyone. The gentle Quilarian had never raised his voice before. My people are already dying. What good is our peaceful civilization if we all die? What choice do we have? The council argued for hours. Some wanted to try other options first. Some wanted to hide and hope the Ravagers would go away. But Thalox kept speaking, kept showing them the death counts, kept reminding them that thousands were dying while they debated. Finally, the council voted. It was close, but they agreed. They would send a distress call to Earth. The message was simple. We are dying. We need help. We have nowhere else to turn. They sent it into space toward a blue planet that terrified them, toward a species that had mastered the one thing they had always avoided. The message traveled through space for 3 days. When it reached Earth, it arrived at a military facility in a city called Sol. The building was massive, made of metal and concrete, designed to withstand attacks. Inside, hundreds of people in uniform worked at computers and trained for scenarios the galaxy had forgotten were possible. Commander Han Doyen sat in his office when the message arrived. He was tall and strong with dark eyes that missed nothing. He had spent 30 years in the United Earth Defense Force, training for threats that might never come. His hair was starting to gray at the temples, giving him a distinguished look. He read the message once, then again. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Kang Mira, stood beside him. She was younger, but just as sharp, with quick eyes and faster reflexes. They're asking for warriors, Doyen said quietly, still staring at the screen. They just don't know it yet. Do we answer? Mira asked. Doyen stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the city stretching for miles. Millions of people living their lives in peace. Earth had fought itself for thousands of years, nearly destroying itself multiple times. Humanity had finally learned to live in peace, but they never forgot how to fight. They kept their warriors ready just in case. Now someone needed them. Someone peaceful and innocent was dying, and they had called Earth for help. Yes, Doyen said, turning back to face Mira. We answer. Prepare the Indomitable for launch. Full combat load. We're going to first contact, and we're going in ready for war. Mira nodded and left to give the orders. Doyen looked back at the message on his screen. Somewhere out in the galaxy, gentle beings were dying because they didn't know how to fight. They were about to learn what happened when you called Earth's warriors. The Indomitable launched 3 days later, carrying 200 Marines and enough firepower to level a city. Commander Han Doyen stood on the bridge, watching Earth shrink behind them as they entered the Quantum Gateway. They were going to meet aliens for the first time in human history. They were going to save lives. They were going to show the galaxy what a Deathworld species could do when they chose to protect instead of conquer. Ambassador Thalox and the Galactic Council waited nervously for Earth's response. They had no idea what was coming. They had called for help from the deadliest predators in the galaxy, and humanity had answered. The UED's Indomitable was a warship. Everything about it was designed for combat. Thick armor plating covered the hull. Weapon systems lined every surface. Inside, 200 Marines trained constantly, keeping their skills sharp. The ship could take hits that would destroy any civilian vessel, and it could dish out even more damage in return. Commander Han Doyen walked through the ship, checking on his crew. In the medical bay, Dr. Park Ji-won studied everything they knew about alien biology. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied life from other worlds. Her team had been preparing for first contact for years, but they had expected it to happen peacefully. Not like this. What do we know about these Quilarians? Doyen asked her. Dr. Park looked up from her screen. She was in her 40s, with sharp intelligence in her eyes. They evolved on a low-gravity moon. Their bodies are fragile by our standards. No natural defenses, no aggression. They're like Earth's rabbits, but intelligent. And the Ravagers? Predators. Pack hunters. Their biology suggests they work together to overwhelm prey, but they've probably never met real resistance before. She showed him a scan. Look at their ship design. It's meant for intimidation and quick strikes, not sustained combat. Doyen nodded. They're bullies. They pick on the weak. Until they meet someone stronger, Dr. Park agreed. In the engineering section, Choi Junho worked on the ship's systems. He was the best engineer in the fleet, able to fix anything and improve what couldn't be fixed. He was making sure the Indomitable would work perfectly when they needed it. "How are the weapons?" Doyen asked him. Junho grinned. "Ready to make some noise, sir. Railguns are calibrated, missiles are loaded, shields are at full power. This ship could take on a small fleet." "We might have to," Doyen said. Down in the Marine Bay, Sergeant Yoon Hajin drilled his troops. Yoon was built like a rock, all muscle and determination. He had been a Marine for 15 years and could fight with any weapon or no weapon at all. His Marines respected him because he never asked them to do anything he wouldn't do himself. "Listen up," Yoon shouted. "We're about to meet aliens for the first time. They might be friendly, they might not. Either way, we represent Earth. We show them what humanity is about. Strength, discipline, and honor. We protect those who can't protect themselves. Is that clear?" "Yes, Sergeant," 200 voices shouted back. On the bridge, Lieutenant Kang Mira coordinated everything. She was tactical officer, which meant she thought about how to win fights. She studied battle scenarios, ran simulations, and made plans for every possible situation. At 32 years old, she was one of the youngest officers to reach her position, but she had earned it. "We're approaching the coordinates," she told Doyen. "Quantum gate exit in 3 minutes." Doyen sat in the command chair. "All hands, battle stations, shields up, weapons ready but not armed. Let's not start a war by accident." The ship hummed with energy as systems came online. Every crew member moved to their position. They had trained for this 1,000 times. The Indomitable dropped out of quantum space near the Galactic Council station. The station was beautiful, like a work of art. It was a massive ring covered with lights and decorations. Gardens grew on its surface. Doyen could see ships moving around it, small and delicate looking. "They have no weapons," Mira said, checking her sensors. "The station is completely unarmed. So are all the ships nearby." "They really are peaceful," Doyen said quietly. They weren't lying. A communication came through. Ambassador Thelox appeared on the screen, and Doyen got his first look at an alien. Thelox was small, maybe 4 feet tall, with smooth gray skin and huge dark eyes. He looked fragile, like a strong wind could blow him over. When Thelox saw the humans, his eyes went even wider. His mouth opened in shock. "You are very large," Thelox said through the translation system. Doyen stood up, and Thelox actually stepped back on his end of the transmission. The human commander was more than twice the alien's height. "I am Commander Han Doyen of the United Earth Defense Force," Doyen said, keeping his voice gentle. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." Another alien appeared next to Thelox. This one was taller, with green skin and multiple eyes. "I am Vixaris. I sent your species the message. Thank you for coming, but I must be honest. We are frightened. Your file described you as very dangerous." "We can be," Doyen admitted. "But we're dangerous to those who threaten us and our friends. Tell me about the Ravagers." Thelox began explaining. The attacks, the deaths, the fear. As he talked, Doyen asked questions. Military questions. How many Ravager ships? What weapons did they use? How did they attack? Where did they come from? The aliens didn't know how to answer. They didn't think in those terms. They could describe what happened, but not in a way that helped plan a defense. Dr. Park joined the conversation. "May I see scans of the Ravagers? Their biology?" Thelox sent over detailed information. Park studied it for a moment. "They're ambush predators. They work in packs. They'll have an alpha leader, probably several sub-leaders. Their tactics will be based on overwhelming, isolated targets." Thelox stared at her. "How can you know this from just looking at their biology?" "Because Earth has predators like this," Park explained. "Wolves, lions, orcas. We've studied pack hunters for thousands of years. We know how they think." Lieutenant Mira asked to see their defensive forces. The aliens showed them proudly. Mira watched the video of their security fleet, then looked at Doyen. She didn't laugh, but it was close. "Those are rescue ships," Mira said carefully. "They're not designed for combat at all." "They are our security fleet," Vixaris said with some pride. "They have served us well for 1,000 years." Against asteroids and accidents, Doyun said, not against ships designed to kill. He paused. You have no weapons, no trained fighters, no defensive strategies. We have never needed such things, Thelok said, and now there was shame in his voice. We are civilized. The bridge of the Indomitable went quiet for a moment. Then Doyun spoke, and his voice was kind but firm. Being civilized doesn't mean being helpless, it means choosing not to use violence unless necessary. Earth learned this the hard way. We fought ourselves for thousands of years. We almost destroyed our whole planet, but we learned that real strength isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting what matters. He looked directly at Thelox. You've been lucky. You've lived in a peaceful galaxy. But luck runs out. The universe has predators, and they don't care about civilization. They only understand strength. Thelox was shaking now, but he stood straight. Will you help us? I know we have nothing to offer you. I know you risk your lives for people you've never met. But please, we are dying. Doyun didn't hesitate. Yes, Earth will help you. But you need to understand something. We're not like you. We know violence, we've mastered it. You're about to see what a death world species can do when we fight to protect others. It might frighten you. I am already frightened, Thelox admitted. But I am more frightened of my people dying. Doyun nodded. Then it settled. Lieutenant Mira, plot a course to Veltrax Prime. We're going hunting. Hunting? Vexaris asked, confused by the word. The Ravagers think they're the predators, Sergeant Yoon said from his station. Time to show them they're wrong. After the transmission ended, Thelox turned to Vexaris. They were alone in the communication room. The Quillarian was still shaking. What have we done? Thelox whispered. Did you see them? They're so tall, so strong. Their eyes face forward like Earth's hunters. When that commander smiled, I saw teeth designed for eating meat. And their ship. It's covered in weapons. Vexaris checked his datapad. I've been reading about Earth while we waited. Their history is filled with war. They've fought each other for their entire existence. Millions dead in some conflicts, they've invented thousands of ways to kill. And we invited them here. Thelox said. Yes, Vexaris agreed. But look at this. He showed Thelox another file. For the last 80 years, Earth has been at peace. Complete peace. They learned to control their violent nature. They keep armies, but they don't use them against each other anymore. They changed. Thelox looked at the data. Why keep armies if they're at peace? Vexaris was quiet for a moment. Then he said, maybe Commander Doyun was right. Maybe real civilization means having the ability to fight but choosing not to. They keep their warriors ready just in case someone needs protection. We need protection, Thelox said softly. Yes, Vexaris replied. So perhaps we shouldn't ask what we've unleashed. Perhaps we should ask what we've unleashed upon the Ravagers. The Indomitable moved through space toward Veltrax Prime. On the bridge, Commander Doyun studied everything they knew about the enemy. Lieutenant Mira planned attack scenarios. Dr. Park analyzed Ravager behavior. Engineer Junho made sure every system worked perfectly. Sergeant Yoon prepared his Marines for combat. Earth's warriors were going to war for the first time in 80 years. But this time they weren't fighting for themselves. They were fighting for people who couldn't fight back. The Ravagers were about to learn a hard lesson. They were about to meet a species that had survived the worst planet in the galaxy. They were about to face humanity. The Indomitable arrived at Veltrax Prime 3 days later. The moon looked peaceful from orbit, with its silver surface reflecting the nearby star. But the sensors told a different story. Debris fields marked where Quillarian ships had been destroyed. The surface had burn marks from weapons fire. Thousands were dead. Commander Doyun stood on the bridge watching the data come in. Lieutenant Mira worked beside him, her fingers moving quickly across the controls. There's a refugee station in orbit, Mira reported. 3,000 Quillarians hiding there. It's not built for that many people. They're running out of food and air. Any sign of the Ravagers? Doyun asked. Not yet, but based on their pattern, they'll be back. They always come back to finish what they started. Dr. Park joined them on the bridge. She had been studying the Ravager attack recordings that the Quillarians had provided. Her face was thoughtful. They're very predictable, she said. They hit supply lines first, cut off escape routes, then attack when their prey is trapped and desperate. Classic pack hunter behavior, but they've never faced organized resistance. They expect their targets to run or hide. Then we'll give them something new, Doyen said. Something that fights back. Down in the Marine Bay, Sergeant Yoon gathered his troops. 200 faces looked at him, young and old, men and women, all ready to fight. They wore combat armor that could survive in space or on hostile planets. They carried weapons that could punch through reinforced walls. Listen up, Yoon shouted. The Ravagers have been attacking peaceful people. They've killed thousands. They think they're big and scary. They think no one can stop them, he grinned. They've never met Earth's Marines. We're going to teach them a lesson. We protect those who can't protect themselves. That's what makes us different from them. They're predators. We're guardians. Remember that. The Marines shouted their agreement. They were ready. Engineer Junho worked in his section, making final checks on all systems.
Weapons are hot, he called out.
Shields are at maximum. All systems green. We're ready for anything, Commander. Good, Doyen replied. Because I think anything is about to show up. The sensors started screaming. Mira's hands flew across the controls. Contact! Multiple ships dropping out of quantum space, counting 36 vessels, all Ravager configuration. The Ravager ships were ugly things. They looked like they had been grown rather than built, all twisted metal and organic curves. They moved through space like hunting animals, spreading out in a pack formation. Doyun opened a communication channel. The Ravager language had been quickly decoded by Earth's computers. This is Commander Han Doyun of Earth. You are attacking a peaceful species under our protection. Leave now or face the consequences. For a moment there was no response. Then the Ravagers attacked. Energy weapons flashed across space toward the Indomitable. The alien ships moved fast, trying to surround the human vessel. Shields holding, Junho reported. The Ravager weapons hit the shields and disappeared like raindrops on glass. Their weapons are designed for unshielded targets. They can't hurt us. Return fire, Doyen ordered. Show them what real weapons look like. The Indomitable's railguns spoke. Solid projectiles moving at incredible speed crossed the distance in seconds. The first Ravager ship exploded. The second one broke in half. The third tried to dodge but wasn't fast enough. The Ravagers suddenly realized they were in trouble. They had expected an easy target like the Quilarians. Instead, they had found a warship that could kill them without effort. They're scattering, Mira reported. Trying to use speed and numbers. Launch fighters, Doyen ordered. Sergeant Yoon, show them how we hunt. Yoon was already in his fighter, leading a squadron of 20 craft. They launched from the Indomitable like angry wasps. The human fighters were smaller than the Ravager ships, but much faster and more maneuverable. Yoon targeted the nearest Ravager vessel. His fighter's guns tore into it, and the alien ship exploded. His wingman took out another. The squadron worked together perfectly, each pilot covering the others, moving in coordinated patterns that the Ravagers couldn't counter. On the refugee station, Ambassador Thelox watched the battle on screens. He had never seen combat before. The violence was terrible and beautiful at the same time. The humans moved with purpose and precision. Every action had a reason. They weren't just fighting. They were hunting. They're so fast, whispered a Quilarian technician next to him. The Ravagers can't touch them. Look at how they move, Thelox said quietly. They work together. Each human knows what the others will do. They've trained for this their whole lives. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 23 Ravager ships were destroyed. The rest fled, jumping to quantum space in panic. They had lost more than half their force. On the Indomitable's bridge, Doyen watched them go. Status report. Shields at 78%, Junho said. Minor damage to outer hull already repairing. No casualties. None? Dr. Park asked, surprised. The Ravager weapons couldn't penetrate our shields, Mira explained. We built this ship to fight other human vessels. Compared to that, the Ravagers are using toys. Doyen nodded slowly. Then he opened a channel on the Ravager frequency. He knew the fleeing ships would hear him. You came here to prey on the weak, he said. You thought no one would stop you. You were wrong. I am Commander Han Doyun of Earth, and Earth protects its friends. You can run, you can hide, but if you attack peaceful species again, we will find you. We will stop you. This is your only warning. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. Get repair teams working. Send medical supplies to the refugee station. And someone find me Ambassador Thelox. I want to talk to him. An hour later, Thelox arrived on the Indomitable. A shuttle had brought him from the refugee station. He was nervous, surrounded by tall humans who moved with predatory grace. But they were kind to him. They showed him respect. Doyen met him in a conference room. The human commander looked tired but satisfied. Your people are safe now, Doyen said. We'll stay in orbit until you're sure the Ravagers won't return. Thelox sat in a chair designed for humans. His feet didn't touch the floor. You saved us completely. I watched the battle. You destroyed them so easily. They were bullies picking on someone helpless, Doyen said. That's always easier to stop than you'd think. Real warriors know when to use force and when to hold back. The Ravagers only knew how to attack. Is this what Earth is like? Thelox asked quietly. Violence and death? Dr. Park, who had joined them, shook her head. Earth taught us about violence, yes. But it also taught us why violence should be the last choice, not the first. We learned the hard way. We hope you never have to. But we don't know how to fight, Thelox said. We never have. What do we do when you leave? Doyen leaned forward. We'll teach you. Not to become warriors like us, but to defend yourselves, to protect your families. There's a difference between being peaceful and being helpless. Thelox thought about this. On my world, we believe that civilization means avoiding all violence, that any species capable of war is primitive. We used to think that being strong meant dominating others, Doyen replied. We fought each other for thousands of years. We nearly destroyed ourselves. Then we learned something important. Real strength isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting what you love. Real civilization isn't avoiding violence. It's choosing not to use it unless you have no choice. Lieutenant Mira added, You called us because you had no choice. That was the right decision. But we can help you make sure you never have to call for help again. Over the next few days, Engineer Junho worked with Quilarian technicians. He taught them how to set up sensor networks that could detect approaching ships. He showed them how to build simple defensive systems. The Quilarians learned slowly, but they learned. Sergeant Yoon took a group of Quilarian volunteers and started teaching them basic defensive tactics. They were weak by human standards, their reflexes slow, their bodies fragile, but Yoon was patient. You're not trying to become soldiers, he told them. You're learning to buy time, to get your families to safety, to hold a position until help arrives. That's all you need. One young Quilarian named Kelvar asked, Why do you help us? We have nothing to give you, Yoon smiled. Because that's what good people do. We're strong so we protect the weak. It's that simple. Dr. Park spent time with the Quilarian doctors, teaching them about trauma and fear. Your people have experienced terrible things. They'll need help recovering, not just physical help but emotional support. The Quilarians had never dealt with trauma from violence before. They had never needed to. Park taught them what humans had learned from centuries of war. How to help survivors cope, how to rebuild after tragedy. On the last night before the Indomitable was scheduled to leave, Doyen stood on the observation deck with Ambassador Thelox. Below them, the refugee station glowed with lights. Quilarian children played in the gardens, already starting to forget their fear. Your species is so different from mine, Thelox said. You understand violence in a way we never could. Does it ever stop? Does humanity ever know true peace? Doyen was quiet for a moment. We have peace. Real peace. But we keep our warriors ready. We train, we prepare. Because we learned that peace requires strength. Not the strength to attack, but the strength to defend. He looked at the smaller alien. The surviving Ravagers fled through quantum space, their ships damaged and their pride broken. They had never retreated before. They had never lost. The journey back to their home territory took 5 days, and those 5 days changed everything. The Ravager hierarchy met in their war chamber, a dark place built from the bones of their conquered enemies. 13 pack leaders gathered, each commanding hundreds of ships. They were the strongest, the most ruthless, the survivors of countless hunts. Theric was the oldest among them, his scales scarred from a lifetime of battles. He had lived for 300 years, had hunted across 50 star systems. He listened to the report from the survivors with growing interest. These humans, he growled. Tell me about them again. The scout who had escaped described the battle, how the human ship's shields had absorbed their weapons, how their guns had torn through Ravager hulls, how their small fighters had hunted with perfect coordination, how they had lost 2/3 of their force in 17 minutes. The hierarchy stirred. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted to hide. But Theric studied the data carefully. He looked at scans of Earth, at the humans themselves, at their history. This world, he said slowly, it should be impossible. The gravity would crush most species. The predators would kill anyone else. The weather alone is deadlier than most warfare. Yet these soft creatures not only survive, they rule their entire planet. They are weak, snarled a younger pack leader named Krax. No claws, no fangs, no natural weapons. They use tools because they are inadequate. No, Theric corrected. They use tools because they are intelligent. They turned their weakness into strength. They created weapons better than claws or fangs. They built armor stronger than scales. They made themselves into apex predators through cleverness. He pulled up more data. Look at their history. They have fought each other for thousands of years. Millions dead in single conflicts. They have refined violence into an art form. Every tactic we know, they know better. Every strategy we use, they have countered centuries ago. So we hide? Another leader asked. No, Theric said firmly. We evolve or we die. These humans have shown us what we have forgotten. We grew soft hunting weak prey. We forgot what it means to face a real challenge. He made his decision. We gather our entire fleet. Every ship, every warrior. We will face these humans with everything we have, and we will learn what it means to hunt equals, not prey. The hierarchy agreed. For the first time in their history, the Ravagers would unite their entire force. 300 ships would attack the human presence. They would show Earth that they were not to be dismissed. Back on Earth, Commander Doyen made his report to Admiral Nam Soo-young. Nam was older, in her 60s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen many battles. She commanded the entire Earth Defense Force. The Ravagers will come back, Doyen told her. Bigger force, better prepared. The Indomitable can't handle them alone. Then we won't send you alone, Nam replied. She pulled up a star map. I'm dispatching Battle Group 7. 5 heavy cruisers, 20 destroyers, 40 frigates, and 3 carrier groups. You'll have 5,000 personnel and enough firepower to level a planet. That many? Doyen was surprised. The Quillarians aren't the only peaceful species in danger, Nam explained. Our intelligence shows the Ravagers have attacked at least 20 different civilizations. Most went extinct. The ones that survived did so by hiding. This stops now. She looked at Doyen seriously. Humanity spent 10,000 years learning how to fight. We perfected warfare and nearly destroyed ourselves in the process. Now we have a chance to use everything we learned for something good, to protect those who can't protect themselves. This is what we were meant to do. Doyen nodded. The fleet will take 2 weeks to arrive. Can you hold until then? We'll make it work, Doyen promised. The Indomitable returned to Veltrax Prime's orbital space. Lieutenant Mira immediately began planning. She studied the surrounding area, looking at every asteroid, every moon, every piece of debris. We can't fight 300 ships head-on, she told Doyen. Even the Indomitable has limits. We need to use the environment. Dr. Park joined the planning session. The Ravagers use pack tactics. They'll try to surround us, overwhelm us with numbers. But pack tactics have a weakness. They require the pack to stay close together. So we turn their strength into a weakness, Doyen said, understanding. We make them group up, then hit them all at once. Engineer Junho studied the asteroid field near the planet. I can mine those asteroids. Plant explosives on the biggest ones. When they move through the field, we detonate everything. They'll use the asteroids for cover, Mira added. It's what pack hunters do. They'll think they're being clever. The plan came together. The Krillarians helped, moving their civilian population to the inner system where they would be safe. They set up a fake defensive position around the main refueling station, making it look important and vulnerable. Sergeant Yoon took his fighters and prepared for hit-and-run attacks. We'll sting them, make them angry, lead them where we want them to go. For 5 days they worked. Junho and his team planted explosives on hundreds of asteroids. Mira positioned the Indomitable perfectly. Yoon drilled his fighter pilots until they moved like a single organism. Dr. Park studied Ravager psychology, predicting their every move. On the 6th day, the Ravagers arrived. 300 ships dropped out of quantum space in a massive formation. They filled the sensors, a vast fleet meant to overwhelm through sheer numbers. Theric commanded from his flagship. He saw the human ship near the refueling station, saw the defensive positions. It looked like the humans were trying to protect something important. Perfect. He sent 200 ships through the asteroid field to flank the humans. The other 100 would attack from the front. The humans would be trapped between two forces. The battle began. The Indomitable fought hard but started backing away, as if overwhelmed. Yoon's fighters harassed the Ravagers, making them chase, making them angry. The Ravagers thought they were winning. They pressed forward, moving deep into the asteroid field. Their ships stayed close together, protecting each other, just as pack tactics demanded. They were so focused on the human ship that they didn't notice the charges planted on the asteroids around them. On the Indomitable's bridge, Mira watched the tactical display. The Ravagers were exactly where they needed to be. She looked at Doyen. "Now?" she asked. Doyen nodded. "Light them up." Junho pressed the button. Hundreds of explosives detonated simultaneously. Asteroids broke apart, sending massive chunks of rock flying in all directions. The shrapnel moved at ballistic speeds, tearing through Ravager hulls like paper. The asteroid field became a killing zone. Ravager ships exploded by the dozens. Their tight formation, so good for pack hunting, became a death trap. Ships collided with each other, trying to escape. The explosions set off chain reactions. Yoon's fighters swept through the chaos, targeting any ship that tried to organize a defense. The Indomitable stopped retreating and started advancing, its railguns picking off damaged vessels. The Ravagers panicked. They had never experienced this. Prey didn't set traps. Prey didn't plan. Prey didn't turn the environment into a weapon. They broke formation and fled in all directions, but Mira had predicted this too. Human ships waited at every escape route. The Ravagers found themselves facing weapons fire no matter which way they turned. In 43 minutes, 300 Ravager ships were reduced to 70. The survivors finally managed to jump to quantum space, fleeing in terror. On his flagship, Theric watched his fleet die. He had led the Ravagers for 300 years, had never lost a battle. Now he understood. The humans weren't just stronger. They were smarter. They turned every advantage against you. They made you defeat yourself. For the first time in his long life, Theric felt fear. Not fear of death, but fear of irrelevance. The Ravagers had been the apex predators of the galaxy. Now they had met something higher on the food chain. The Indomitable had taken damage. 12 Marines were dead. 34 were wounded. Engineer Junho had burns on his arms from an overloaded console. But they had won. Doyen sent a message to the fleeing Ravagers. He spoke clearly, making sure they understood every word. "You thought you were hunters. You were wrong. You're just bullies who prey on the weak. Earth has mastered violence so completely that we learned to transcend it. We don't fight because we enjoy it. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Test us again if you want. But understand this. Earth remembers. Earth adapts. And Earth does not lose." He closed the transmission and sat back in his chair. Around him, his crew worked to repair the ship and tend to the wounded. They had paid a price for this victory, but they had kept the Quilarians safe. Ambassador Thelox arrived with medical teams to help the wounded humans. He found Doyen on the bridge looking at the casualty reports. 12 names. 12 people who had died defending strangers. Why? Thelox asked softly. "Why did your people die for mine? We're nothing to you. We're weak. We can offer you nothing." Doyen looked up at him. 12 people died today defending a species they'd met 1 week ago. That's what humans do. We protect. We sacrifice. We stand between the darkness and those who can't defend themselves. He stood up, wincing from his injuries. It's not because we're the strongest or the smartest. 8 days after the battle, Admiral Nam Soo-young's fleet arrived. The sight was breathtaking. 5 massive cruisers, each one larger than anything the galaxy had seen. 20 destroyers flanked them. 40 frigates spread out in protective formation. 3 carrier groups launched hundreds of fighters that moved in perfect coordination. The Galactic Council watched from their station. They had never seen military power like this. For 3,000 years, they believed such things were primitive and unnecessary. Now they saw the beauty and terror of organized force. Admiral Nam was a small woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. She came aboard the Indomitable to meet with Commander Doyen. "Report," she said simply. Doyen told her everything. The first contact, the battles, the tactics, the losses. When he mentioned the 12 dead Marines, Nam was quiet for a long moment. "They died protecting strangers," she said finally. "There's no higher honor. We'll make sure their families know that." She looked at the tactical displays. The Ravagers are broken but not destroyed. They'll regroup eventually. We need a permanent solution. "What do you suggest?" Doyen asked. "We teach the galaxy to defend itself. Nam replied. We can't protect everyone forever, but we can give them the tools and knowledge to protect themselves. Meanwhile, in Ravager territory, Theric made a decision that would shock his people. He took a single small ship and traveled alone to meet the humans. It was incredibly dangerous. The humans could kill him easily, but Theric understood something his fellow Ravagers did not. They had lost. Completely. The only question now was whether they would adapt or die. His ship approached the human fleet slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions. The humans let him come. They brought his ship aboard one of the carriers with tractor beams. Theric stepped out, surrounded by human marines with weapons ready. He was huge by human standards, nearly 8 feet tall with thick scales and powerful muscles. But he could see these humans weren't afraid. They were ready, alert, but not afraid. They brought him to a meeting room where Admiral Nam and Commander Doyen waited. Dr. Park Jiwon was there too, studying him with scientific interest. Lieutenant Mira stood ready at the door. Theric spoke through the translation device. His voice was rough and deep. I am Theric of the Ravager hierarchy. I come to understand. Understand what? Nam asked. Why you fight to protect others. Why you don't conquer. Why you help the weak. Theric's large eyes studied them. We are predators. For 10,000 cycles we have hunted across the stars. We have never known defeat. You defeated us, and we did, Doyen confirmed. And we'll do it again if you continue attacking peaceful species. I do not come to surrender, Theric said. I come to learn. Your species also evolved as predators. Your planet is a death world like ours, but you are different. You hunt not for food or territory. You hunt to protect. This makes no sense to us, Dr. Park spoke up. Your species evolved as apex predators on a harsh world. So did ours. But Earth had many apex predators. We had to compete with each other, with nature, with everything. We learned that cooperation was as important as competition. We learned that the strongest packs protect their weak members. You are saying we are primitive, Theric growled, despite our technology and power. No, Doyen said firmly. You're survivors who never had to learn certain lessons. Earth almost destroyed itself many times. We fought wars that killed millions. We came very close to extinction. Eventually, we learned that true strength isn't about dominating others. It's about protecting what matters, he leaned forward. You can learn too. Or you can keep hunting until someone stronger than us shows up and destroys you completely. Your choice. Theric was silent for a long time. Finally he said, what do you propose? Admiral Nam made her offer. The Galactic Union needs protection. They're too peaceful to defend themselves. Earth will help establish a galactic defense force, but we won't do it alone. Your species understands warfare. You understand tactics. Work with us. Become guardians instead of raiders. You would trust us? After we killed your people? Theric was genuinely surprised. Trust is earned, Lieutenant Mira said from her position by the door. But everyone deserves one chance to change. This is yours. Only chance. Theric returned to his people with the human proposal. The hierarchy debated for days. Many wanted to refuse to fight to the death. But Theric convinced them with simple logic. We cannot defeat them. We have tried. They are stronger, smarter, better organized. We can hide and slowly starve as they protect our prey. We can fight and die with honor but achieve nothing. Or we can evolve. We can learn from them. We can become something new. The vote was close, but they agreed. The Ravagers would join the humans. 6 months passed. The Galactic Defense Initiative was formed. The founding members were humanity, the Quilarians, and the Ravagers. It seemed impossible, but it worked, Commander. Doyen was promoted to Admiral and made Supreme Commander of GDI. Lieutenant Mira became Captain. Mira and headed Tactical Operations. Dr. Park established a division studying how different species could work together. Engineer Junho led technology programs. Sergeant Yoon, now Lieutenant Yoon, trained the first mixed species units. Theric joined as an advisor. Working with him was strange at first. He had killed humans in battle, but he was honest and direct. He taught human officers about predator psychology. He helped them understand species like his own. The Quilarians built their own defense force, small but determined. They would never be warriors like humans or Ravagers, but they learned to protect their homes. Ambassador Thelox became a bridge between peaceful species and warrior species, helping both sides understand each other. The galaxy changed. Species that had hidden from the Ravagers for generations came out of hiding. Trade increased. Communication improved. The Galactic Council, once paralyzed by fear, gained confidence. Some species feared humanity, worried they would become conquerors. But Earth's actions spoke clearly. They defended. They protected. They trained others. They never imposed their will. Admiral Nam established a clear doctrine for GDI. We defend. We protect. We stand with our allies. But we don't conquer. We don't exploit. We don't force our way of life on others. Every species has the right to choose their own path. 5 years after first contact, Admiral Doyen stood on the observation deck of the new GDI headquarters station. It orbited Earth, a symbol of cooperation between species. Ships from dozens of worlds came and went, all working together. Ambassador Thelox found him there. The small Quillarian had grown confident over the years. He no longer feared humans. He understood them. "Do you regret answering our call?" Thelox asked. Doyen smiled. "No, you gave us purpose. For 80 years, humanity had been at peace. Our warriors trained for threats that never came. We wondered if we still needed them. You showed us we did, just not the way we expected." He looked at Earth below, the blue and green death world that made humanity what they were. "We didn't come to conquer. We came to protect. That's what makes us different from the old Ravagers. We choose how to use our strength." Thelox nodded. "My people were terrified when you arrived. You represented everything we had evolved to avoid. Predators, warriors, deathworlders. But you also showed us something we never imagined, that the deadliest species in the galaxy could also be the kindest." A mixed squadron flew past. Human, Quillarian, and Ravager ships in perfect formation. 5 years ago that would have been impossible. Now it was normal. "The galaxy is changing," Doyen said. "Species are learning that peace requires strength, that cooperation is more powerful than isolation, that differences can be strengths instead of weaknesses." "Because Earth taught them," Thelox replied. "No," Doyen corrected gently. "Because we learned together. Earth taught about strength and tactics. You taught about diplomacy and cooperation. The Ravagers taught about adaptation and change. Every species brought something valuable." In her office, Dr. Park updated her xenopsychology files. She wrote about how different species could work together, how predators could become protectors, how the weak could become strong, how fear could turn into friendship. She ended her report with a note. "The galaxy called for help, not knowing who would answer. They feared us when we arrived. Now they stand with us. Together we created something new, a civilization that is both peaceful and strong, united not by force but by choice." Lieutenant Yoon trained a new class of recruits. Humans, Quillarians, Ravagers, and 3 other species all learning together. They struggled at first. Their bodies were different. Their instincts were different. But they learned to work as a team. "You're not just soldiers," Yoon told them. "You're guardians. You protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's the most important thing. Not how strong you are or how good you fight. It's why you fight." Engineer Junho worked with scientists from 12 different species. They developed new defense technologies together. Humans contributed weapons knowledge. Quillarians contributed sensor technology. Ravagers contributed ship design. Every species brought something unique. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Peace wasn't weakness. Strength wasn't evil. Violence wasn't always wrong. What mattered was the choice. The choice to use strength for protection. The choice to fight only when necessary. The choice to help others.